Alright guys, we've got 9-2 homework to get done, so let's get this stuff going so we can all be done for the night and get some sleep. Alright, first, I'm not going through every problem, but I'm going through quite a few, so bear with me as we get through all of these, okay? I'm also, so you know, I'm doing both regular and advanced problems. So if you don't have this problem, on your homework, then, that just means that was for the other classes and not for y'all. All right? All right. First of all, it said the instructions say multiply if possible and simplify. Remember we said that in order to be able to multiply radicands, we have to have the same index number. We see in number 1 that we have a 3 for each of our indexes. Okay? So, that means I can take and combine these underneath a radical that is a cube root. So I'm going to take the cube root of 4 times 6. That gives me the cube root of 24. Now, I need to figure out one of the factors of 24 that is a perfect cube, and I need the largest one. So, the perfect cube of 2 is 8, and that happens to be one of the factors of 24. So, 24 is the cube root of 8 times 3. Okay. 8 is 2 cubed times 3. Now, we know that once I have an exponent and an index that are the same number, I can cancel those out. So that means I'm going to bring that 2 out from underneath my radical. And I have the cube root of 3 left over. Okay? Now we look at number 3. We have the cube root of 6 times the 4th root of 9. Okay? Again, we have to have the same number in our index to be able to multiply. 3 and 4 are not the same index numbers, so this is not possible. Okay? Alrighty. This next one, the set of instructions says to simplify. Okay, number 4 is the cube root of 27 x to the 6th power. So I'm going to look at 27, and to get that into an exponent that matches with my index number, I need to get that to a number that is cubed. So I have the cube root of 27 is 3 cubed. And then if I look at my x to the 6th power, excuse me, if I take and divide 6 by 3, that means I have an exponent of x to the 2nd power, and then I can raise that to the 3rd power, because when I take x squared and raise it to the 3rd power, I multiply those exponents, and that gave me my original 6. Okay, so I know I'm good there. So now I have the cube root of 3 cubed times x squared cubed. My radicals and my exponents are the same, so they can cancel each other out. That leaves me with 3x squared as my answer. Okay? Alrighty. Now, number 6. Excuse me. I've got the 5th root of 128 x squared y to the 25th power. Okay, 128 to the 5th power. Okay, I don't know what that is, so let's do some factoring. Okay, change a color here for a second. Okay, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do 128. I'm going to divide that by 2. That gives me 64. I divide by 2 again. That gives me 32. Divide by 2 again. That gives me 16. Divide by 2 again. That gives me 8. I can divide by 2 again. That gives me 4. I can divide by 2 again. And that gives me 2. Okay, why did I choose 2? Very simply. Because I can divide 128 by 2 because it's an even number. As long as I keep getting even numbers, I'm going to continue to divide by 2 until I can't divide by 2 anymore. Okay? So now I've got everything down to 2's. But I need a set of 5. Okay? My index number is 5. So I need 5 2's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my set of 5. Okay, so I have the 5th root of 2 to the 5th times, I have 1, 2, so 2 squared. Okay, that's 128. And then we have x squared. And then I have y to the 25th. 25 divided by my index of 5 tells me I have y to the 5th power. So y to the 5th power. Okay? Now I can go through and simplify. My radicals and exponents there cancel out. That gives me 2y to the 5th outside my radical. And then I have my radical to the 5th, my 5th root. And I am left with 2 squared is 4. And then we have x squared. And there's my answer. Okay. All right, the next one, say multiply and simplify. So I've got the square roots of 12 times the square root of 3. Okay, well, I want to go ahead and I'm going to break this down a little bit, okay? I've got the, although I don't want to change colors here. The square root of 4 times 3 times the square root of 3. That gives me the square root of 2 squared times 3 times the square root of 3. Now, if I combine those under the same umbrella, under the same radical, that's going to give me the square root of 2 squared times 3, or the square root of 2 squared times 3 squared. Okay, I'm going to cancel because my exponent and my radical cancel each other out. I'm left with 2 and 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, you could also look at that in another way if you'd like. You could say combined 12 times 6. That gives you the square root of, I mean, not 12 times 6, I apologize. 12 times 3 gives me the square root of 36. And the square root of 36 is 6. So, either way, whichever way makes it easier for you to see it. Okay? If you can see the 36 easier, do it. If you need to factor it down and see those steps a little bit closer, do it. Okay? Whichever is easier for you. Now, Ben, hush. We have number 9. We have 2 times the cube root of 6 x to the 4th y times 3 times the cube root of 9 x to the 5th y squared. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and multiply what's outside of our radical. So 2 times 3 is 6. And then I'm going to break things down underneath my cube root. Okay? 6 is 2 times 3. 9, okay? 9 is 3 squared. Okay? Then I have x to the 4th times x to the 5th gives me x to the 9th power. And y times y squared gives me y to the 3rd power. Okay? So, still got that 6 out there. I'm going to combine some things real quick. That's 2 times 3 squared is 3 to the 3rd power times x to the 9 is 3 cubed, and then y cubed is y cubed. Okay? My radical and my exponents are both 3, so we can do some canceling here. And I'm going to bring out some things, okay? So I've still got my 6, and then I'm going to multiply that by what I bring out. My 3, my x cubed, and my y. Okay? That leaves me with that cube root of 2 still underneath, right? Okay? So, 6 times 3 is 18, x cubed, y, cube root of 2. I don't know why I put an equal sign up there. Let me get that out of there. Okay? There's my answer. Alrighty. On to the next. Simplify. And this is simplify in any way that is necessary. Okay? In this case, it's just like the last one. So we have 5 times 2 is 10. And then we have the square root of 2 times 2 is 2 squared. X times x to the 3rd is x to the 4th. Y to the 6th times y is y to the 7th. Okay? So I'll break down a little bit further. 10 times the square root of 2 squared. X to the 4th is x squared squared. Y to the 7th, when I take 7 and divide it by 2, that gives me 3 with 1 left over. So I'm going to do y cubed squared, that gives me y to the 6th, times y. Okay? Now, my radical and my exponents cancel each other out on 3 of these factors. So I have 10 times 2 times x squared times y cubed. So 10 times 2 is 20 x squared y cubed square root of y. Okay? Oops, I need to put something back in there real quickly. Make that a little bit smaller because I forgot to put my square root of y in there. There we go. Now I have an answer that completely makes sense. Okie doke. The next one. Okay, don't freak out. Okay, don't freak out over this one. We're going to do distribution. It's painless. Okay? So I'm going to take, and I'm going to first distribute and say the square root of 5 times the square root of 5. That gives me the square root of 5 squared. Okay? Then I'm going to take the square root of 5 times the square root of 15. So plus the square root of 5 times 15. Okay? So the square root of 5 squared, my radical and my exponent cancel. That leaves me with a 5. Okay? Plus, now, 5 times 15 is the square root of 75. Okay? 75 is 25 times 3. Okay? 25 is 5 squared, as you know. And then the exponent and radical cancel. And we're bringing that outside. That's going to stay after that plus sign, but in front of the radical. Rewrite that a little bit. 5 square root 3. And there's my answer. Okay? Not too bad. Alright. Here's, I think this is, actually, I think I've got something written down wrong there. I think this is supposed to be cube root right there. Okay. Your classmate simplified the square root of 5x to the third times the cube root of 5xy squared. And they gave them 5x squared times y. What mistake did she make? And what is the correct answer? Okay. Now, we have said this many times over the last couple of days, that in order for you to be able to multiply two radicals together, the exponents have to be the same. I have a 2 with the square and a 3 with the cube root. I can't multiply those together. Okay? What error did she make? And she multiplied. Let's try that again. She multiplied when she did not have like index numbers. The correct answer is, it is not possible to multiply these radicals. Okay? Alright, number 14. A square rug has sides measuring the cube root of 16 by the cube root of 16. What is the area of the rug? Okay, we're going to multiply them together. I can multiply them together. They both have the same index number. So, I'm going to put them, put them together underneath the same radical. I have 16 times 16. Okay. Now, I'm going to break that down a little bit. 16 is 4 times 4. The other 16 is 4 times 4. Okay. So I've got 3 4s there that can be combined together to say the cube root of 4 cubed times 4. My radical and exponent can reduce out, and I bring that 4 outside. I am left with the cube root of 4, and there is my final answer. Okay, the next one, divide and simplify. Okay, let's take let's do blue. I have the same index numbers. Because of that, I can combine everything under the same radical. 405 x to the 8th power y squared divided by 5 y to the, or x to the 3rd y squared. I'm going to do my division right here under the radical sign. First of all, I see that my y squareds are canceling each other out. Okay. 405 divided by 5, let's see, 405 divided by 5 is going to be 8 and 1, so 81. So I have 81, and then I have x to the 8th divided by x to the 3rd. That means that is x to the 8 minus 3, so x to the 5th power. Okay. Now, what number is a factor of 8 that would make it be, when I take it to the 4th power, it's going to get 81. I said 8, I meant 81. So, the 4th root of 81, okay, let's just do factors here real quick. I have 81 is 9 times 9. 9 is 3 times 3, and here's another 3 times 3. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 3s. So, we're going with the 4th root of 3 to the 4th power. And then x to the 5th. X to the 5th is x times x times x times x times x. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is x to the 4th times x. My radicals and exponents cancel each other out, and I'm going to bring those outside. So that's 3x, and I'm left with the 4th root of x. Alrighty. Let's do our next one. Number 17. Okay, we're going to start with the cube root of 75. X to the 7th y squared. Underneath that is 25 x to the 4th. Okay? Now, 75 divided by 25 leaves me with 3. 7, or x to the 7th divided by x to the 4th leaves me with x cubed. And then I'm left with y squared. Okay, I have 3 to the 1st power, x to the 3rd power, y to the 2nd power. I have an index of 3. So the only thing that cancels is my x. So I'm going to bring my x outside, and I am left underneath with the cube root of 3y squared. Okay. Rationalizing the denominator. Okay. Rationalizing the denominator, remember, means that we've got to get rid of the radical underneath. The only way we can get rid of the radical is if every term under the radical has the same exponent number as the index number. Okay? So on number 19, that means I have an index number in my denominator of 3. That means that 2 has to get to the 3rd power. Okay? So, what am I going to multiply the cube root of 2 by to get it to where I have the cube root of 2 cubed? Okay? Well, I have 2 to the 1st, and I need to get to 2 cubed. To get to that, I have to multiply by the cube root of 2 squared. Whatever I multiply on bottom, I have to multiply on top. So, again, the cube root of 2 squared. Okay? So now I've got my denominator fixed. So let's multiply out my top. I have the cube root of x times the cube root of 2 squared. So that gives me the cube root of 2 squared x. Okay, and then let's simplify. On top, I have the cube root. 2 squared is 4x. On bottom, my radical and my exponents cancel each other out, or they reduce. And so I'm left with the number 2. And there's my answer. Okay? Alright, let's do number 20. Number 20. Again, I've got to get all my factors on the bottom to the same index number as my, or the same exponent number as my index. Remember, there's no number here, so automatically we know that that's a 2. Okay, so I've got to get 5 to 5 squared, x to x squared, y to y squared. So I'm going to multiply that by 5. I'm going to multiply the x by x. I'm going to multiply the y by y. That will end up giving me the square root of 5 squared, x squared, y squared. Okay? Now, I've multiplied my bottom, but I've got to take care of my top too. 5xy. Okay? That means on top, I have 7 times 5. And then I have x to the 4th. Okay? X to the 4th is x squared squared. And then I've got another x that it's multiplied by. And then I have y times y, which gives me y squared. Okay? So now let's reduce this all out, simplify it. Okay? So, I have the square root. Oh, no, let's come down here to where I have a little more room. On the top, I have y, or 7 times 5, which is 35. That's under my radical. Okay. I have x squared squared, so that can cancel, so that's going to come out to the front. Okay? And then I have another x left underneath. And then I have y squared, which that can cancel. Oh, that's supposed to be, hold on. Let me erase this. I need to back up a little bit. Okay, that's supposed to be x squared, not x. And then the y squared is y. Okay. Then we're going to divide that by. The squares and the radicals cancel each other out here. So I have 5xy. Now, I need to look at this a little bit. I've got x squared and y on top, but I've also got an x and a y on the bottom. Those can cancel each other out too. They can simplify out, reduce down. So, x squared divided by x leaves me with x. Y divided by y cancels each other out. I'm left with the square root of 35x on top. And underneath, I'm left with 5. So my final answer is x square root 35x divided by 5. Okay? Alright, these last two are advanced problems. So if you are in the regular class, then you don't have to worry about watching the rest of the video. You can go ahead and sign out if you'd like. If you would prefer to keep watching just to see what they do or what they're doing, then by all means, please do. Okay? Alright. So, number 21 says Einstein's famous formula E equals mc squared relates energy E, mass m, and the speed of light c. Solve the formula for c, and then rationalize the denominator. Okay, so E equals mc squared. I've got to solve for c. So I'm going to start by dividing by m. Okay, so that gives me E over m equals c squared. I'm going to square root both of those so that we have c is equal to the square root of E divided by m. Okay? So the speed of light is the square root of energy divided by mass. But I need to rationalize my denominator. Okay? First I'm going to split out. And I'm going to say, let's make this right. C is equal to the square root of E divided by the square root of m. Okay? Now, I need to get m to a square to be able to get rid of my radical, right? So we're going to multiply by the square root of m over the square root of m. And that is going to leave me with the square root of em divided by the square root of m squared. Okay, in my denominator, my radical and exponents cancel each other out. And now c is equal to the square root of E times m divided by m. So, the speed of light is equal to the square root of energy times mass divided by mass. There we go. Alrighty. One last one. The formula H equals 16t squared is used to measure the time t it takes for an object to free fall from height h. Okay? If an object falls from a height of h equals 16a to the 5th power, how long did it take for the object to fall in terms of a? Okay? So, we're going to plug in for h. We're going to put 18a to the 5th. So, 18a to the 5th is equal to 16t squared. Alright, now, first thing I need to do, because I'm solving for a, so I'm going to first divide by 18. Okay, so we have a to the 5th is equal to 16t squared divided by 18. Okay, now I'm going to take and solve for for a, so I'm going to take the 5th root of a, and I'm going to take the 5th root of the 16t squared divided by 18. So, now, let me get a little adjusted here. A is equal to the 5th root of 16t squared divided by the 5th root of 18. Okay, what is 18? Okay, let's just start. We're going to go 18 divided by 2 is 9, divided by 3 is 3. So that is, and let's put our 16 in terms of that as well. So 16 is 2 to the 4th power t squared. Okay? Divided by the 5th root of 2 times 3 squared. I need to get both my 2 and my 3 to a 5th power. So I'm going to multiply by the 5th root of 2 to the 4th power times 3 to the 3rd power. Okay? I'm going to do that on bottom and on top. 2 to the 4th power times 3 to the 3rd power. Alright. On bottom, that gives me the 5th root of 2 to the 5th times 3 to the 5th. Okay? And we'll work and simplify that some more in a minute. Let's look on top. This gives me here the 5th root of, I've got 2 to the 4th times 2 to the 4th. That gives me 2 to the 8th power. Okay? Now, I can reduce that out. I'm gonna make this simpler. I'm gonna say 2 to the 5th times 2 to the 3rd. And then I'm gonna do times 3 to the 3rd times t squared. Okay? Now, let's do some reducing here. Okay? Actually, I'm going to... No. Let's see. I'm going to move some things around here so I have a little bit more room to write. Okay, I'm going to move that up there. And then I'm going to move... Oops. Don't want to do that. Let's move all of this up here. And that gives me a little bit more room to write. Okay, so we have 2 to the 5th. That's going to reduce, the radical and the exponent are going to reduce out. So I'm going to pull that 2 out from underneath. And then I have underneath, I have 2 to the third. So 2 to the third power is 8. And then I have 3 to the third, which is 27. And then I have t squared. Okay. And then underneath, my my denominator, my index and my radical and my exponents cancel, and I'm left with 2 times 3. Okay, so I've got my 2's, 2 divided by 2, those cancel each other out. Okay, and then I have 8 times 27. Let's see, 8 times 27, 56, 5, that's 16, 21. So 216. So I end up with the square root, or no, the fifth root, excuse me. Let's make sure we get that right. The fifth root of 216 t squared divided by 3. And that's A. Okay? Alrighty. That seems to be it for tonight, guys. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.